Okay, it says we are streaming. I'm going to double check Twitter because I want to be extra sure that we're actually doing this.
I got green check marks.
You got green check marks?
I don't know what that means, but they're green. They're better than red.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, now YouTube says I'm live, so I guess we're live. All right. Welcome to the revival of the Full Stack Chat podcast. My name is Brian Morrison. I am the host of the Full Stack Chat podcast. So what we do here is we invite builders from around the dev community to come on and chat about what they're building and all things about what they're building, whether that's just talking about the platform and the product, or whether that's struggles, dev tools, the stack they've chosen, all things tech. We'll also get into business and marketing as things go. There is also a Discord if you're interested in joining and chatting with myself, some of the guests, and another couple of developers. It's a relatively small community right now, but the goal is I want to build this thing up to be a key part of any builder's journey. So this way you can lean on a helpful and friendly community with a group of people who all have kind of the same outcome and mindset. So by day, I'm also developer educator at a company called Clerk, which is a user management and authentication platform that can be built into a whole array of frameworks and tool chains and whatnot. But we really focus on trying to make auth for the Next and React developers as simple as possible. So if you're looking to add auth into your platform, give it a shot. And my DMs are open on Twitter if you need any help. At BrianMMDev is my handle. So today I have a very dear friend of mine, Clark Sell, who's the founder of That Conference. Clark, I'll turn it over to you and you can give everyone an introduction.
Hi, I am the founder of That Conference. Back to you, Brian.
It's short and sweet. I love it. Making me do all the work today.
Well, I mean, you were very polished for the revival of this.
Thank you.
Let's see. Clark Sell, live in between Chicago and Milwaukee. For those who want to understand geography, I live in the middle of nowhere. Welcome back, Brian. Welcome back to the state.
Coming soon.
Let's see, 25 years in tech, worked for some of those big companies like a Microsoft, on my own now, founded a little thing called That Conference, built a platform for it, run another company called Unspecified. It's where we do web dev work. Husband, 2 kids, middle-aged. Yeah, there we go.
Awesome. Thanks. So let's start. So we'll be talking today about all the tech behind the platform that powers that. And there's probably so much more behind that I don't even know what we're going to be talking about today. So I will be learning a ton. But let's start off with something simple, an icebreaker. Coffee. I think we're both fans of coffee. If you had the choice to drink coffee, how do you prefer it? Cream, sugar, black?
Oh, no, black.
Oh, that was easy.
Yeah, no. And I'll tell you why. I many years ago, I got introduced to what I'll call real coffee, like, fresh beans, different origins, freshly roasted, and then started getting higher quality beans, which led into me getting my own roaster, and now I was partnering with a local roaster. I want to have like good shit. It's like you just can't go back.
Yeah, I hear that. I am not a fan of cream with a splash of coffee myself. I like my coffee black too.
Yeah.
So that's awesome to hear. Now, before we get into, I guess, the meat of the conversation, which is talking about that platform, I also want to talk about key takeaways for anyone who's out there listening. So the goal of this is to lean on the knowledge of people who are in the middle of building things, whether they are just getting started, whether they are in the middle of trying to get something launched, whether they've launched something, regardless of whether it succeeded or failed, because those definitions are kind of non-point. But also it's meant to be interactive. So if you have questions for myself or Clark as we have this conversation, please drop them into the chat on the respective platforms, and I will bring questions up at the end or potentially in the middle of our conversation if they're pertinent. But let's start off with that. So I personally am familiar with That Conference. It was kind of it was a conference that it's very near and dear to my heart, kind of refocused and changed the trajectory of my career. I've said it so many times on different podcasts, but That's also why I'm so happy to have Clark as being the inaugural guest of the Revival Full Stack. But Clark, why don't you explain what that conference is, and I guess also dive into some of the behind the scenes tech that's used to power it, and maybe some other initiatives that might be available. I think you said you have some stuff to share. So should I bring your screen up now?
No, let's start. Let's just set the groundwork. Okay. So that conference, if you don't know of it, go visit it. Come. The mission here is to grow a community, contribute to the community. I don't want to say grow because there's already lots of communities out there. So I'm going to say contribute to the community in a different way. I am an engineer, developer. I've been a product manager, whatnot. Like my background is not in event planning, if you will. Back in 2010, we had this idea to have a family-friendly conference, polyglot, where we could all get together and learn from one another in our respective diversity, right? Wherever you play, you have a different kind of lens on things than I do. Our kids have a different lens on the tech than we do. And the goal was to really kind of bring all that together in a melting pot in a place where that's fun. You can hang out, it doesn't feel like a conference, that kind of shit. The reality over 15, 16 events is that what I'm really truly passionate about is the people in the community, and like hearing you say my life has changed because, and it's because of the things and the people who were there to do that. And so really the conference, while it is, kind of the big financial elephant in the room, I think of it more as a reunion. I think of all the activities like the ones we're doing today. This would have not happened if it wasn't for that. And so I'm just very passionate about creating kind of a platform, be it either technical or, kind of virtual, however you want to call it, that really kind of brings us all together to level up ourselves, right? And being in person, being online, great. Those are things. Streaming, great. That's a thing. But also, a little dumb stuff like how do you show a schedule? And, there are things that enable people to, again, go further. And the impetus of us creating a platform was to not just kind of throw a Google sheet up and say, here's a schedule, but really, how do we make your experience from, the time you figure out who we are to you being an active citizen in a community who wants to network with people and share contact information and like all the things that are kind of proper as part of a community. So there's a lot of stuff that we haven't even gotten to. There's a lot of groundwork laid. But unlike most, we have a gigantic platform, and this is actually our third time building something. First time building it in a much different way. So that's kind of the framing. I think it's pretty unusual. I think people build websites, to support a conference. I don't think people think of things like building their own ticketing system and registration and notifications and, that kind of 5-10 year plan of like, what is this? How does this really enable people to be active in a community 365 days of the year?
Yeah, that's great. I think one of the key takeaways from just the perspective of a builder, not even leaning into the tech part of this yet, right, is to outline that you really kind of started with the vision of what that can be before even diving into the tech that actually powers something behind it. And I think that's really important for people who are learning, who are interested in building and launching products, is to like know what the end goal is and not just to like feel that there's this stack that they really want to work with. I definitely think that there's a place for that, for like learning and building with something that you like and that can be applied towards it. But I think that product vision is really key here.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Nobody gives a shit about the tech. I mean, you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be clear. Like you, Brian, like we know each other very well. You don't know what's back there, and it's open sourced. So like, it truly it doesn't fucking matter. And I mean that it's a very humbling experience to realize that the thing that you're working on. I mean, people see the UI, people interact with the UI, they get mad at the UI. They don't get mad at your API unless your API is the customer kind of endpoint for them. But I would also say there's a bit of, you can have all the vision in the world, but how you market it, how you communicate it, how people end up using it, how you, I mean, I've been doing this since 2010. Do you think I have our messaging right? No. No. I spent half a day in a workshop yesterday, kind of working on the business, and I've got pages of like, I have been telling our story wrong. I misaligned with the things that I'm passionate about. Like it's taken 14 years and I still feel like I'm still figuring it out. And it changes, right? Like we started this new platform 4 years ago and there's parts that I want to just burn down because I mean, we took some big bets and those big bets didn't pay off. And I got hundreds of thousands of dollars into this. So,
yeah,
you know, it's not, I don't mean to scare people, but I often we think, oh, I could just do this thing, right? Oh, when we push this out, I'll do this thing. And then all of a sudden I've got, 20,000 bots that are running against my, website, running up my API, my database costs and this and that. And you're like, okay, shit, I've got to deal with that, right? What does that mean?
Yeah, those unknowns can really bite you, and especially when it's something on a massive scale, like a pandemic hits and everyone gets sent home. I mean, I don't think anybody was really accounting for something that something massive on that scale to happen, right? I mean, that completely shifted the landscape of not even just technology, but the entire world in what felt like overnight. Yeah,
it really did, and I can go into I don't know countless kind of stories and scars, but we at that time we looked at it as an opportunity to kind of rebuild our platform for what we wanted it to be in the next 10 years. It was like this window in time where like, cool, let's go do this right. And in late 20, we actually had word of COVID in kind of late 2019, but I was early 2020 before March. I mean, I had hit command delete and we started over from scratch. And it was a very aggressive number of years of like getting to something that was I don't want to say a stable product, but us pivoting and trying to understand what we wanted and how we would mesh with things and what would it be in the future and bugs and look, we're not even, I mean, we're, like I say, I feel like we're just getting started, but it's been 4 years of work already.
Yeah. So what kind of features goes into empowering a platform that that's meets your vision of bringing people together and building that sense of community?
So if I break things up into a couple parts, I'm going to go one, us, the company, right? The people who are planning, whoever that is. I'm using company kind of loosely. I don't mean like legality. And then the consumer, right? So right now there are two people who do all the planning for that conference, and like any company, you have a set of resources and skills that enable you to do things. And some things should be systematized and others should not. And all of that is dependent upon the culture, the people, the tech, the whole swirling thing. So I'll give you a good example. We run the schedule, like how to schedule things out of a Google Sheet. And that Google Sheet is connected to our API, and it allows us to use a spreadsheet for what spreadsheets do really, really well: sorting, filtering, color coding, rules, all of that. But we needed it to work in the confines of the company. So we have an API that allows us to interact with the API, kind of like you would if you kind of think Git and kind of pull, push, those kind of metaphors. But it's easy. Like, why on earth for a 2-person, I don't call it 5-person company, would I go build a set of screens that is some nice, UI to drag and drop sessions and all that kind of stuff when I have a Google Sheet that can do all of that stuff? Like, it just doesn't it's not a good use of resources, time, money. So, we have this platform. It is of those two parts. There are things that are very well geared towards a small company running things. Think registration, tickets, profile, answering questions, updating sessions. Like, those are things when you have 150 speakers that you don't want to. You can't have a lot of consternation in the wheel. Otherwise, things will get lost. So Brian says he can't do it on Monday at 2:00. He can do it Monday at 3. I need to be able to quickly go maybe to my phone or to a computer, switch Brian from Monday from 2 to 3, hit a button, make sure that the cache is cleared on the website, or the cache for Brian is cleared on the website. People who follow the sessions are notified that this change has happened. UIs are updated. Maybe there's a message that goes out on the social. I need that to be as seamless as possible, right? On the other side, right, you the user, you want to be able to buy a ticket, look at a schedule, filter a schedule, have a profile, update a profile. You don't really want to get a receipt. You don't really want to call anybody to have that kind of stuff happen. You want to do it. And, sometimes we get a little pushback and like, why don't you have a mobile app? And I'm like, we do. It's your calendar. Like, just subscribe to the iCal, because we all use calendars really well. And do I really need to, I'm having a hard time as to what a custom app that has to be developed would bring to the experience at the event. Like,
yeah,
the web is good. The internet's good. Cellular's good. Those were things that were not good 10 years ago. They were horrible. And we had apps 10 years ago because the internet would go out and you'd be like, I don't know what the schedule is. Today, it's just really not a thing. 5G, everybody's got a phone.
Yeah, I popped up a message from our friend Josh Barrios, who says functionality overlook is important for any software if you are a one-man band. I think that is why UI component libraries are good for indie hackers. Then you can build them out a custom UI later. And I think that really leans into the whole idea of, like, as developers, we're all about shiny, fun things, right? Like, we like to code. Most of us, I personally could easily be a code monkey, sit in the closet for 10 hours a day and crank out code and have a blast doing it. But if I want to get something out the door and make it effective, you got to really lean on what's available to make your life as easy as possible, just to meet that end goal. And I think that aligns in a little bit of a different light, aligns really well with what you're talking about. Using a calendar, using an iCal sub, versus building out something completely custom to do what is effectively the same thing.
We use Tailwind for that exact reason. I am not great at CSS. I can do well. I do not have the time to cross-test in different browsers. I do not want to think about that stuff. I can throw some Tailwind around like nobody's business and make something look good. It's simply a buy versus build. I am using that team to make it simple for me to not have to think about my cross browser, this, that, and the other shit that I have to deal with. It's just a headache that I can't. It's a deficiency in my skill gap. I'm historically kind of back end engineer, then kind of graduated a front end, and now just play everywhere. But I'm not good at it. But I'm fucking good at Tailwind. Man, I could do some great stuff. Does anybody matter? No, just Twitter. Just Twitter's the one who wants to, throw shade or love or whatnot. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Whatever works for you and your team, if you can deliver the product, great. Great.
Yep. Yeah, I've seen the more now that I've very recently joined Clerk, and I'm going to be very clear. This podcast is of my own initiative and not sponsored by Clerk in any way. But one of the things that's happened now that I'm getting more into the third-party auth conversations on Twitter is I see so many people who argue against third-party auth providers and state that you should build and own your own auth. And I don't even as Clerk, I don't even necessarily agree or disagree with that in one way. Like I feel that everybody should understand the fundamentals. In fact, I'll be at that conference this summer giving a talk about how you could go through all the headache that I did and build something using infrastructure as code to launch something on AWS, or I could link Vercel to a Git repository and let it handle all the headache for me. And that conversation is true for third-party auth. It's true for Tailwind. It's true for React, right? Like I could go and build my own JavaScript front end using vanilla JavaScript, using document.getElement by ID, and handle all of the functionality that goes into doing something as simple as interacting with a text box. Or I could use React to do it for me.
So Chris put up a thing with Clerk. You can get off and up in about 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I'm going to caution that statement. I'm not bagging on Clerk by any stretch. With any tool, there's like a quick, you can get up and running, but then there's also this, how does it become part of a platform, and right? How do you really leverage it to its best of ability and all those kind of things? I'm with you. In 2020 was 2019, I was like, I don't want shit to do with auth. I just I don't want the weight of feeling that Chris or Ryan or Josh or you don't trust me, right? Because then I don't have you using the platform because you think you got hacked by us, right? What can I do? Well, back then and still to this day, we signed up with Auth0 because they do that. I don't do that, right? I don't handle credit card processing. Stripe does. I don't want any part of that shit. I don't want you to not trust us in our relationship of the exchange of, I want to come to your thing. I want to give you money. I want to know that this is secure, this, that. Those are things build an authentication platform. Are you high? No way. Come on. When people are like, oh, no, you should have your own. And you're like, it's $300 for the year. Why? That's 3 hours of work for the year. You have to value what your skill set is in the platform that you're bringing versus the dollars to just go give it. I don't want to say give it to somebody else, but pull somebody else's thing in. I get updates from Auth0 for the same amount of money that I paid before. I just look at it as, hey, they're my extended dev team. I don't have to worry about it. I just update my fucking package and move on my merry way. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why you use tools like that. Clerk too.
Many moons ago,
I don't support Svelte, so you and I have to talk about that.
I'll make sure to relay that information back to our team. I'm pretty sure we could support Svelte, but yeah, I don't. This doesn't need to be. We don't need to focus too hard on Clerk for this after this segment. This also I feel rings true to people who build starter platforms for in different frameworks. For example, I have another individual, and forgive me, his name escapes me at this moment, but he's coming on Full Stack Chat in a couple of weeks to talk about how he built and is selling a Next.js starter kit. And I looked at the website and I was like, for $75, I can literally just have all this functionality built into a thing out of the box, and all I have to do is worry about doing the thing, making the thing that I'm building successful. I'm like, this is a fantastic value. and there's
Oh
a good
yeah.
chance I'm just gonna go ahead and buy it so I could use it on my projects going forward. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
I used to
this is
work.
the same for like education, right? Wes Boss's stuff and Talinsky's and James Quick. You're gonna tell me that I could spend $100 on their course? I could binge watch it, over the course of a couple hours. And same with a podcast, they put that in the same boat. And I'm going to download all that information and then go, oh, cool. I don't need to step in this shit, this shit, this shit. I mean, that's why we go to conferences. So you get to meet one another and go, oh, that's why you do that thing. Okay, great. Noted. Move on. No,
Yeah.
but you have to respect the time aspect to it.
Yeah. That's really cool. And also, we'll touch on this one more time, and then I'd really like to talk through the stack that you used to build that platform, so we can get back a little bit back on track. Yeah. But many years ago, before I even became a software developer, I used to be in IT, and I worked for a managed services provider. And the owner at the time, this phrase is a little graphic, but it does make sense in the context. Is you want your business to have one throat to choke, right? So we've offered services to, like, you subscribe to us and we'll fix your computers, we'll update your computers, we'll provide you computers, we have all the service, everything it's like a kind of a bundled deal, everything's packaged in. It's not cheap, but if anything goes wrong, you have one phone number to call, and you have a handful of people that are trusted experts who can come in and help fix damn near any problem you can pitch at us, right? And there's real value in that, in having the person to call, the company to lean on. Obviously, provided they are trustworthy. I mean, that's a whole other discussion. But if you have a trustworthy company who's worth the money that you're paying for them, that's worth not having the stress of, oh, my server went down in the middle of the night, and now I wake up in the morning and I got to spend the next 5 hours trying to figure out how to get the server back online. Like, no, we'll be notified, and then we'll call you and let you know we picked up on it, and we're working on trying to fix that or resolve it.
Yep.
So. Yep. But with that said, that platform, let's get back to the topic at hand. So we talked about some of the features and functionality and stuff that you've built or offloaded. Let's talk about what you have built. What stack do you use? Why did you choose it? Why do you prefer it over potentially other things you've tried in the past?
Okay, so top down, we use Svelte. I guess I'll go browser down. So Tailwind, Svelte, Svelte kit. We've been on this Svelte wagon since 2019. GraphQL, we have a gigantic graph API. We do have some REST stuff. We have some buckets. Node.js backend. It's a federated backend. So we have, well, here, just throw my,
There we go.
So it's a little old. I'm going to go one tick bigger. All right. So kind of across the top. So this diagram is a little old, but it'll get the point across. Across the top, we have, I'll say what customer facing stuff. When we rewrote things, we rewrote it as that.us. This is going to go through another rebranding again. Thatconference.com, which is the in-person event. Signs at thatconference.com. These are things that we have kind of around the convention center. We have something called that.land. This is what we use for Bitly link tracking. BRB is Big Red Button, another interface that has been offline for a couple of years, but one day will come back. Stripe. All in all, these are what I would say now is this is all what I'm kind of calling that.labs. We front everything with Cloudflare. Our websites are hosted in Versal. Versal's kind of fronted by Cloudflare for DNS and DDoS and domain stuff, the whole 9 yards. Our GraphQL API is a gateway with a number of different, yes, we run in Cloud Run. So Max, hell yeah, I got no problems with GCP. We run in Cloud Run. So these are serverless containers that pretty much run all the time. Each of these are different ends of the graph endpoint that are all pulled together in a gateway. It's kind of important for us at the time because if you think about the ebb and flow of how we deploy and how the business runs, each of these things can scale up and down independently. So if for some reason sessions is really hot, more containers can get thrown at the sessions things and it can scale up and events can kind of do whatever. The same token, if we screw around and we mess up something, it shouldn't take the whole graph down and it should still work. So let's say I screw up partners. Really, you should still be able to get your schedule. All of these things are separate deployments. There's not some big mono repo. And they sit there and do their thing. We have a REST endpoint, images and uploads and things that are a little bit complicated to kind of do through the gateway. We sit on whatever Firebase is called today, Firestore, I think it is, but their document store. There's a number of serverless functions that do kind of run real time as things happen, that do different things related to whatever kind of needs to happen at that time. Off to the side with Stripe, we have a service called Bouncer. So like you go and buy a ticket, it goes through, it calls Bouncer. Think of you going into a bar. We throw it in a pub sub queue. Basically what we're doing is processing tickets to make sure that they're associated with the right profiles and everything has kind of happened and done its thing. Then off to the side, things like security, Auth0, integrations to Slack, email through Postmark, logging through places like Sentry and Stackdriver, analytics, Logflare, and a few other places now. We don't use LogRocket anymore. We use PostHog, which I'm a huge fan of, and things like Twilio, whatnot. So kind of overall, like this is the thing that's running day to day. We get about, what did we get last week? 16,000 unique hits last week. You know, we get a lot of traffic. Not as much as I would like, but enough to say things like our gateway is actually cached. So we have an edge cache here. We use something called Stellate. Used to be called Graph CDN. Love Max and those guys. We've been using them since the beginning. And so that's kind of the 50,000 foot view. If I was to look at the API, this here is just the query side of what it looks like to interact with our platform, right? So if we make some of those things more real, like sessions, here's a whole query stack that ultimately behind the scenes has a whole series of containers that go up and down. Same with partners, members. Some of these others are higher level and spread across, whatnot. Now, back in the day, I figured out you could do some pretty sweet things with the type system in GraphQL, which I'll show in a second. But obviously, this isn't like, we're not screwing around like this big shit. We tried to build our API as a first-class citizen to not only ourselves, but anybody who wants to interact with us. So I kind of stole that notion from the Azure team back in the day. They started with their API first long before they ever had a UI. And we have features in the API that I've yet to be able to surface anywhere just because I just haven't had the time. But on the mutation side of things, let's see if I can think of a good one to show off the hierarchy. Let's take a session. And so, if I was to write say I wanted to mutate something, most of the time, what you'll see is you'll see a very flat graph that's really, 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 really wide. We have a very deep graph, and we think in terms of business. So we're not doing like the kind of typical like DB graph nomenclature, if you will. So we went from sessions. Inside of sessions, just think of like, these are all the things you can do with a session. Very kind of, I'm trying to think of the name of that blue book. Business design. Anyways, but these are all the things you can do with a session. You can create one, you can get to one, and then there's some admin stuff, whatnot. So a natural place, if you wanted to look at a session, you need to grab it first, right? And so on a session, if I grab it, I have the ability to update it or set that it's been attended. If we take an admin perspective, on the admin, I can create, delete, whatnot. So this gives us the ability to kind of control security kind of in a hierarchy, because I can at the top say like, hey, you have to be an admin, and then anything underneath of that you don't get to. But it also gives us this unique ability to where if I'm in, if I want to write a query, so we said sessions, and if I needed to get a session, well, session takes an ID. But what it returns back is a mutation that lets me act on that session. You're not going to find another graph that I have never found another one who implements.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Style. And so update then, right? Update is going to take, I don't know why it's not popping up. Update's going to take an input, a graph input. Maybe it's one deeper. Didn't know I was going to start live coding. Update. Yeah, this gets this. Does this one take it? Yeah. So if I want to update a regular session, I have an input to that. And so in the back of your mind, what I want you to think about is the fact that when I called session's going to go do the work to go get the session information, like that metadata, and it's going to pass it down through update, through regular. And then when I'm passing in this session, this variable here, this is only, the update goo that needs to be here, right? So it's very contextual, and it lets you build it. The same token, let's say I wanted to do two things. This isn't true for a session, but I don't know. Let's say set it. That wouldn't be right. I don't know. What would we do? Favorite. Oh, look, it's there. I love it when it fucking works. So now I could, in theory, compose two mutations in this case that are acting on the same session. So now I only have to query session once. Now I'm thinking DB side, right? How many times do I going to call the database and do a thing and run the stack? Well, I'm only going to call a database once. I'm going to get the metadata that I need if it's applicable. And here I can update and I can favorite. Now in this case, I have to pass in an event because you favorite by an event. And so these two things can happen asynchronously side by side, and then the whole mutation kind of returns out at once. this is a fabricated case. Like I wouldn't call these two things, but you can see how it's possible. And so our entire graph is this hierarchical thing that just, come on, baby, go back, right? That allows us to interact with things regardless of kind of where we sit in all of this. And it's worked out really, really well. I think in the beginning, it was kind of hard until we got the API built. But as we really sat down and we decided to think about what, again, this is an old one, but what data looks like from the perspective of us and you and how they relate to one another. Once you get that data model or that API model built, it opens up just endless doors of things that you don't necessarily have to build because you've got this like rich API structure that, you know, allows you to act against it. Or maybe you need to tweak something or add another mutation or a query kind of down the stack. Instead of you having to do all this other work above, you just get this, you know, kind of slipstream down at the end, and you get all the benefits and the testing and everything that's happened above you. And now you just have to focus on this one teeny tiny thing. And all of this, all of what you see is all CI. All I got to do is check in whatever repository in GitHub. And, you know, it goes through I've got a lot of repositories, but whatever. Like all I got to do is check in here and it's going to run the build pipeline and it's going to shit it out to the servers and do what it needs to do, the whole nine.
This is cool. I've never seen anything like this. And this is stuff I could nerd out about for hours. I love hearing about this. It almost sounds like, as you were explaining your design approach to the GraphQL API, it almost sounds like you, in some sense, took concepts from object-oriented programming and applied it towards GraphQL in the sense that you have these functions that could be run on the actual objects themselves instead of you having to call the object back first and then do something with it after the fact. I mean, I know down in the deep level, you're kind of still doing the same thing, but I just think it's really cool.
I think this book, Domain Driven Design.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yep. I mean, that's where some of the inspiration came from. So you're right. Like this is a very business centric domain model. This, when I think about a conference, when I think about a community and enabling it, I think about it in these, well, really these, on this side of things, in these aspects, right? We have a news thing aggregator that we haven't shipped yet, but events, venues, we have this notion of communities, our products that we sell, aka tickets, orders. We have an affiliate program, members, partner sessions. So yeah, I can very easily just write an API that says events. What's next? What am I doing here? Events. I'm going to say all. Name, description, right? And right, great. I called, like, this is like so awesome that Clerk, you called and you got data. Big fucking deal. It's anonymous data. Like we have a lot of anonymous data, or not anonymous, but unauthenticated data, right? But here it is. But then here's where the secret sauce comes in. Pretty sure I could show everything that's on here.
Hope so. There are a lot of people watching right now.
Here's the scheduling spreadsheet, right? This is the heart. Like for us, this is the thing on how we do scheduling. I don't use the tools for the right thing. And so in what is it called in Google Sheets? This is called app scripts. But we have our own menu that pulls up. I can pull the schedule. I can pull new stuff. I can push updates. So again, that kind of Git mentality of like push pull. I have some things about how I can swap around, whatnot. But here's a spreadsheet, right? This is everything that's scheduled. Some of these things are color coded, like based upon the category. We have a bunch of rules in this spreadsheet that say, hey, if it's a workshop, color it peach. If it's something that conference is putting on, color it blue or navy. If the room is open at that time, color it yellow, right? So you can see gaps in it. If it's a family session, color it maroon. So you kind of get that sense. You can see I can come down here and I have all the rooms that we have for either of our venues. All the time slots are here. So all I got to do is like, oh, Kent's going to go to room 1. Great. I'm going to switch him over to room 1. I come up here. I say push with notifications or not. If I push with notifications, it goes to your email. Like if you're over here and you're in the let's go find Mr. Kent. Right. So if I go to the more details of this guy and I favorite that, we got to fix that refreshing there. Oh, that shit the bed. Great demo, Clerk.
Curse of live demos.
Yeah. Oh, I know why. Because we don't show favorites until the cache refreshes. But anyways, you would see my image would pop up here if I was anonymous, or if I was not anonymous, but a public profile. No, a public profile.
Oh, okay, I got you.
And so I would show up here, and so then when I'm in this spreadsheet, and I turn around and I switch Kent from the mess hall to whatever Africa 10, and I go and push it, boom, he's gonna. Emails are going to go out, Slack's going to get updated, the whole 9 yards. Like everybody's going to do that. And I shit you not, like I can do this from my phone. I have pushed updates to the platform, different parts of the platform in the middle of registration when there's a line of people and somebody's like, shit's not working. And I'm like, I got you, baby. Like we're going to go fix this right quick. So let me see if I can show this other secret business. Check it. Can't do that. It's got people's emails on it. I was going to show how we check people in, but I don't want to do.
I think this is a cool scenario of showing how you can use automation with existing tools to make effectively a business process work without having to like completely build something from scratch.
Yeah. So Josh is asking, do you have this sheet connected to your API? Yes. Yeah. Like that's exactly, everything goes through Cloudflare, through the gateway, into one of those containers, right? A query is written in, or a mutation is written in whatever, let's see, if we were going to mutate, we'll just use that example with Kent. I would be sessions, right? I would pick out the session that I need and I would be updating. And in this case, it's a keynote. And one of these fields, right, in some way, whatever we have as an input, would get updated. And then the robots go and they do their shit and they do all the things.
That's awesome. This is excellent to show us off. I appreciate it. And I know I already see a couple people in the audience appreciate this as well.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of shit here. Like it's a lot. It's a lot. there's a lot of requests. There's a lot of traffic. There's let's do let me see. That's probably not of much use to anybody. And I'm not sitting here, our platform has plenty of issues. Like we'll go full circle back to like how we started this conversation. All that matters is the users buying shit or the user's involvement, right? Using your product. I say buying stuff. I don't mean that I'm selling them, but using your product. And we have fumbled so many times. And thankfully people continue to kind of be involved. But, we started that.us as this, how do you do open spaces and everything. And there's a whole thing here as to us creating an open space and be able to join and create a video session in a browser and like whole architecture kind of around that. But it ultimately got confusing for people. And so we brought that conference.com back online. Huge fumble if you kind of hindsight 2020, losing all the Google love and all of that since, back in the day. We've got, my homepage, it doesn't really sell. Like if you just come here, I don't do a great job selling. If you come to Wisconsin or Texas, then we really get into like, what does a conference means, images, keynotes, some of these sessions, whatnot. But, I've got a ton of work to do that really makes the sell better. Never, regardless of things like me just trying to build the community and use the platform. Like there's a whole, since I'm logged in, I see Josh Berry's. Let's find Josh. Right. So we have this whole notion of networking. And so here I want to connect with Josh. I'm going to go share my contact information with him. I'm going to add some notes. Super cool dude. Can't type. Right. Update it. I'm going to follow him as well. And so homie just got, my profile got updated. He just got an email from the platform saying, hey, Clark wants to connect. Do you guys want to be friends? Like this is the kind of shit for me where I'm like, I'm way more into hearing a story like JD reconnecting with a person at ViewConf because of that conference and knowing that we were the kind of the spark that made that shit happen. But at the same time, being able to provide, a platform here for people to do it. And then when, we're all going to hassle Josh because he doesn't have a great bio here, but you know what? He can go fix that. Like he didn't have to call me to go do that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for this demo. This was really cool to see. As we're coming up on the hour here, let's start kind of bringing this home. If you had to give anyone in the audience who is interested in starting something that they want to, starting some product that they want to build and ship, if you had to give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
Okay. The piece of advice I would give is just don't start. Meaning, our as engineers, our first thing is to go get file new, and that's actually the wrong fucking thing to do first. What you really need to do, and this is me kind of putting the entrepreneurial hat on. What you really need to do is say, connect with your users, meaning you need to go start a wait list. You need to go find 5, 10, 15 people who you can start to really vet an idea of and say the words such that you can articulate it better. And look, I'm hundreds of thousands of dollars and years into this. And man, have we fucked up a few times along the way. I wish I would have vetted some of my ideas a little bit better. And in some cases, yes, use a Henry Ford example. If I asked everybody what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse and he built a car. There is legitimacy to that. But going out and saying, trying to get people integrated into your idea and thought process such that you can start to vet some of your things and ultimately tailor your build experience with them. Maybe you end up shipping in a different order of those activities, right? Maybe you start with something else that you thought wasn't important, but they see as important. And then you have to put your product manager hat on and go, I'm not sure, like, where does this fit into the grand scheme of where we want to go for the vision? And so really, these things have to enable the other person on the other end. And you can get people on a wait list. You can get people involved long before you do file new. And that's just further proof that the concept, the thing that you want to then build will be there, and you're building super fans, right? By the time you ship, you've already got customers, right? And some that will probably be your biggest advocates to ship the thing to whatever you want to do. And so you just can't ignore the realities of, like, it's a product. I have this tweet queued up that I'm afraid to send, but I'm the product here. You're ultimately using my shit. If you don't like it and it's hard to buy a ticket, then you're not going to use it, right? And it doesn't matter if I think that the thing is the cat's ass. If nobody uses it, nobody gives a shit. And so before you hit file new, go get people to give a shit, right? Go validate, go build the thing, go build the lists and see what comes out of it.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Where can people find you, Clark?
I'm everywhere. That conference, the Clerk cell. I think I'm the Clerk cell everywhere because there's another Clerk cell that happens to be my father and has sucked up all the stuff. But the Clerk cell or that conference, go check out that conference.
Yeah, go check it out. Huge fan. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving me a lot of edit points to go and edit out some cursing here.
I'm sorry. You get me rolling on some stuff that I'm like, I gotta go. Like, let's go, baby.
No, it's good. It's good. I'll have to go change the age rating on YouTube. I'm not gonna go back and edit all this. Yeah, for those of you who joined after the fact, this will be viewable on my YouTube channel at Brian Dev is where you can find me pretty much everywhere as well. If you are looking for a small group of developers who are building and shipping things, fullstack.chat is the website to go to. Eventually to review the recaps of all these, but for now it's a link directly to the Discord. And yeah, we'll be back next week with another guest talking about building software. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks everybody for stopping by. Have a good one. Bye-bye.